Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So, yesterday in the Windy City, also known as Chicago, there is the Command Fest going on right now, and some early previews for Tarkir Dragonstorm, which I believe comes out in April, but we're already getting some previews, and March, I would assume, is spoiler season, so that is just around the corner. We got some really exciting cards. Let's jump into them in a quick take on a very exciting new commander. So first up, Storm Scale. That is hilarious that they named something Storm Scale, because, you know, the Storm Scale, like, you know, like mechanics or keywords based off of, you know, the Storm Scale, no? Okay. Anyway, Storm Scale Scion, a 4/4 dragon with flying that costs 6 mana in red. Other dragons you control get ++1, and it's got Storm. Ironic, right? Yeah, this is a mythic. It is definitely not disappointing with the mythic name, and it is going to be very expensive because, well, dragon decks are quite popular. I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, dragon decks are one of the most popular tribes out there, and this is a very good card for dragon decks. On top of it just being good card for dragon decks, like, it could be like a sneaky storm finisher, I guess, in a way too, but like more likely you're probably going to just finish off with a different kind of storm card. That being said, yeah, again, basically every single time you have cast spells on that turn, yeah, or I guess it counts opponent spells too, do keep that in mind. Copy for each spell cast before this turn, you get copies of it, and of course, those copies benefit all your dragons against, like, multiple anthems that all benefit each other, of course, and benefit all your other dragons. This is a really, really good card. It depends on the dragon deck, obviously, but I mean, just like at the very least, like with an dragon deck, you already have cost reduction on your dragons just inherently from your commander. And of course, there's other ways to get cost reduction too, so casting multiple spells in a turn can be quite easy to do. On top of that, you know, the other spells your opponents might be casting, yeah, it can be a really big, giant, massive, huge play. Giant Anthem. It's a really cool card. Storm Scale. Hilarious name. Moving on. Smile at Death. Hello, Death! Enchantment for 5 mana in white. At the beginning of your upkeep, return to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a counter on each of those creatures. This is a very cool card. It's a very good card for the right deck. Obviously, it's very specific in what it does. If you have a deck that does not have a lot of creatures with power 2 or less, it is useless. If you have a deck with a lot of creatures that are very small, it can be really good. And if you have a deck that has a lot of creatures that are very small that actively works to get them into the graveyard, like say an aristocrat style deck or maybe a self-mill deck, this card can be absolutely amazing. On top of that, yeah, there are some counter synergies too, so if you have a +1 counter build that could utilize this too, that's something you could consider if you've got a lot of low-to-the-ground creatures. I mean, certain creatures that are like, oh, it's just a 0/0 but comes into play with a counter on it. Yeah, it counts those too, so yeah, this is definitely a massive repeat reanimation effect, but again, for the right deck out there again. It's not just like, slam it in any deck with creatures. It's like, no, do you have small creatures? Well, no. Well, then it's garbage. But if you have very small creatures, and again, especially if you have small creatures that either get back into the graveyard a lot, or if you have ones that you just get in the graveyard with like milling or discard or whatnot, definitely consider it. Moving on. Skirmish Rhino, hilarious. Yeah, Wizards with Siege Rhino? No? Okay, yeah, this is the new one. 3/4 Rhino with trample for 3 mana in Abzan. When this creature enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I mean, Siege Rhino made a much bigger impact, I'd say, in other formats outside of Commander. Commander's not really like a, wow, whoa, Siege Rhino, oh my goodness. It's not a bad card, but like, yeah, it's just like, hey, cool, ETB Slight Drain. Versus in this format, though, we're looking more so like Gary. Gary is the Drain. It's an okay card. I don't really know what kinds of decks you'd really be considering it for. Like, maybe a blank deck, but like it's very specific, so probably not. Next up, Shiko, Paragon of the Way. Yes, one of these spirit dragons has been revealed, and I believe that we're going to be getting one in the pre-con. Is that true? Are we going to be getting one in the pre-con as well as one in the actual set themselves? Because I think that this is actually from the set, right? Let me know in the comments below, but I think this is the set, so we'll be getting one pre-con and one set commander for each of these, I think. A 4/5 Spirit Dragon Flying Vigilance for 5 mana in Jeskai. When it enters, exile target non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, copy it, then you cast a copy of paying its mana cost. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. This is a very interesting card. It kind of reminds me of, oh gosh, what's that one Sphinx? There's a Sphinx that costs like 7 ETBs and lets you cast something for free out of your graveyard. It's kind of like that. Again, exile target non-land, so it is non-land. That is specific, so you can't just like ramp with this, which I guess is okay. But still, it's kind of like, it's like, Sun Titan-ish, but instead of getting it out of the graveyard directly, you are actually, again, copying a spell and casting it and getting a copied permanent token of it, which can be a downside because, like, a bounce effect would obviously just permanently get rid of that thing, but also it can be an upside because if it is a creature, I mean, populate effects with this can be absolutely huge. Wizards, reprint Song of the World Soul, you cowards. So, being able to have something like that where it's like, whenever you're casting a spell, populate, great. I mean, just have, like, all these amazing small, low-to-the-ground creatures that you have amazing ETBs on, potentially, and then, populate. That's probably the direction I would go with it. Obviously, again, this can be any cards out of your graveyard, essentially, that are non-land mana value 3 or less. So having, a lot of cards that you maybe can mill into your graveyard, maybe cards you could probably, you're not in black, so you can't really tutor too many cards in your graveyard with these colors. That being said, you could discard them too. But being able to obviously take advantage of blink effects with this one, I mean, you could just like cast. You could definitely like do like a storm off kind of turn with this. You could do some pretty crazy things actually with it. If you do like storm off like with like blink effects over and over and over again, like blink, 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 and maybe some copy effects too, and then have some fun with that. There's definitely some cool ways that you can go with it. It's a cool concept. I like it. I like it a lot. Very cool. Okay, moving on. Kind of like Sun Titan adjacent, like Commander-ish, but with like populate potential. Okay, next up, Barren Step Siege. It's enchantment for 4 mana in Orzhov. Enchantment that says when it enters, choose Abzan or Mardu. Interesting. So now it's like specific like clans that we're choosing versus previously it was like Palace Siege, which was like between, or not Palace Siege specifically, but all the sieges were basically like Khans or dragons. This is like like clans themselves against each other. Okay, so Abzan, at the beginning of your end step, put a counter on each creature you control. Mardu, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, each one sacrifice a creature of their choice. I don't know why that needs to be specified. Rule lawyer out there, please help me out. Why not just like them sacrificing a creature in general would make sense? It's just a clarification that, I don't know. Anyways, it's a good card. Like, if you are in a +1 counters build, this is just a guaranteed way that every single one of your creatures just consistently gets more and more counters, which can obviously be amazing for you. Or just like, I guess, like a low to the ground combat synergy, kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I just keep building up my army throughout the game. Proliferate, obviously, can work with that too. That being said, the Mardu side is like more so like a very tame version of Dictate of Erebos or Grave Pact, essentially. Like, incredibly tame version of that, where it's like, all right, you wait till the end step, and then, if any of your creatures died, your opponent sacrificed creatures. It's kind of like, it's adjacent to it. It's not the same thing. But, like, yeah, like Aristocrat style could consider it as well, because it is repeat 4 sacrifices for your opponents. And again, it's got that, like, all right, if you need to go in one direction or the other, you can go either way. There's definitely going to be decks that are like, I'm just having it for this, just having it for that. And there's going to be other ones that are like, oh, you know what? It can be good depending on the situation. I'll utilize either or. Okay, moving on. I'm going to be interested to see, like, the other sieges. It's gonna be really cool. I like that they're like doing like these split between the 2 colors of these. So Abzan Ardu, we'll do white black, and then we're gonna see what the other ones have. Cool. Next up, Sarkhan is back. Dragon Ascendant, a 2/2 human druid for 2 mana in red. When it enters, you may behold a dragon. Look, I've beheld a dragon. It's over there. Everyone look at the dragon. It's like, hey, Sarkhan, we get you like dragons. Cool. All right, if you do create a treasure token to behold a dragon, choose a dragon you control or reveal a dragon card for your hand. Interesting. I feel like we had this kind of ish, like with certain cards, like that. With certain cards back in Tarkir, I believe we had something similar where it was like, yeah, like you just like reveal one from your hand and like you get an extra benefit of some sorts. I think, or like if you had one in play. But this one's like specifically like now it is definitely a thing, like beholding a dragon. Maybe like behold, maybe we'll see that with other creature types. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I would assume at some point. So yeah. This is a way to obviously like get extra value out of it. If it is your commander and you have like a dragon tribal deck around this, it's like, okay, yeah, chances are incredibly likely that you have a dragon in your hand. So this is just auto ramp on turn 2. Temporary ramp with the treasure, obviously. That being said, it's interesting. Cool. Whenever a dragon you control enters, put a counter on Sarkhan until end of turn, it becomes a dragon to other types and gains flying. I always wanted to be a dragon. Cool. So being able to, utilize this as a commander, it's one that can obviously grow throughout the game. Can get you a really quick start, obviously, getting that extra treasure for you, which is nice. So like guaranteed ramp on turn, not guaranteed, but like semi-guaranteed ramp if you got enough dragons in your deck on turn 2. When it comes to like it, like in the 99, like would it make the cut for an actual dragon deck? I don't know. I couldn't. I mean, like it is again like kind of ramp on turn 2. It can turn into a threat as well, depending on the type of dragon deck that you have. Some dragon decks do go wider than others. it's an interesting card for sure. It's something you could definitely try out. But yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting card for sure. Next up, Inevitable Defeat. Instant for 4 mana in Mardu. This spell can't be countered. Exile target non-land permanent's controller loses 3 life. You gain 3 life. Now, this is obviously, like, I mean, again, when it comes to, like, removal, this is really hard to stop, obviously, because not many things can stop it. It can't be countered. Exile target non-land permanent. So, yeah, it's just like, okay, it gets around counter spells. It gets around indestructibility, regeneration, etc., etc. It doesn't get around, like, obviously, like, hexproof or something like gaining hexproof. But, yeah, there are certain ways to stop it, obviously. But it's, like, really hard to stop. 4 mana. Very specific colors, though. There are certain decks that are better than others at, you know, fixing their mana. Obviously, like, this is basically, like, better other end, but more specific mana value, essentially. And on top of that, again, like, draining someone for 3, that's just a nice additional benefit. Like, when it comes to Commander, like, how much play will this see? I mean, maybe a decent amount of play in Mardu decks because, like, yeah, if you don't have, I mean, if you're playing, like, a 5-color deck, it might be a bit tougher to manage your mana, maybe. But when it comes to, like, a 3-color deck, like, yeah, you could probably pretty consistently cast this when you need to cast it. You do have to hold up specific mana, though, like, again, like, with each tripper on the table, if you're like, okay, I want to hold this spell until, like, the end of my turn, or end of my opponent's last turn, you know, like, okay, I got to make sure I've got the right mana, so I got to, like, not utilize certain things in my turn, potentially. That being said, yeah, it's a solid removal spell. And if your meta has a very counterspell heavy meta, it's a good way to, like, guarantee you take something out or nearly guarantee it. So yeah, very cool. It's interesting. Next up, Mox Jasper. We got a brand new Mox. Ban it right away, right? Probably not. Ledger artifact for 0. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Activate only if you control a dragon. So typically, dragons are a higher CMC. Typically. Not always, but typically. And so because of that, yeah, I mean, if this was like Mox, I don't know, it was Mox whatever, so a different kind, you know. But for elves, like, it'd be like, oh, okay, that's probably ban worthy. Because, yeah, elves are like, all right, turn 1, land of elves. Also, a Mox. Also, another elf. Cool. Yay. Versus dragons, it's like, usually don't have a turn 1 dragon play. Typically. So, even though it is technically fast mana, it is kind of slow mana in a way, but it is free mana. Like, so eventually, once you do get a dragon into play, it is just online. It is, again, perfect mana fixing. 1 mana of any color set is nice. Dragon decks, definitely try it out. Like, it's going to be a very interesting card to see, like, just, again, like, how much play it's going to see in those decks and how impactful it's going to be. It really depends upon your curve, but again, like, if you have an Ur Dragon, obviously that's the most popular dragon commander right now. I believe it is, actually. Is Miriam? I think it's still Ur Dragon. Anyways, yeah, you have cost reduction for your dragons already, so you can get them out earlier. But still, like, when's the earliest you get your dragon out? Is it, like, turn 3, turn 4? So, maybe turn 3. Then, yeah, I mean, like, this is definitely a card that can make an impact. But, like, if you're just like, okay, I'm counting this as a mana rock, and I played on turn 1, and I don't have a dragon out. Okay, all right, next turn. I don't have a dragon out. Next turn. All right, well, it's not doing anything for a long time. Cool. It is a cool concept. I like the concept a lot. It's just, again, like, in practice, how good is it going to be? We shall see. Dragon players out there, let me know how excited about this you are. And if, again, like, if your curve is correct for this kind of a card, and actually maybe how expensive it's going to be, because it's still a Mox and it's still a Mythic, so yeah. And elf players out there, like, please let me know, like, do you want one for elves? It's pretty good. All right, next up. Taval. The balance scale. Now, again, this is, so I believe, yes, that is correct. We're probably going to get a version, because we already saw, was it Chico? We are probably going to get a version of each of the Spirit Dragons as one in the actual set, and then one in the precons as well, because they are, I don't know if they're the face commander of it, but, like, there's, like, 2 commanders for it, and they're one of the 2. But yeah, Taval the balance scale is the Sultai one. So I believe this is, like, confirming that we're getting one in the set and one in the actual precon too. Cool. Yeah, because this is the precon. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the set symbol as well as the name in the bottom left. Okay, here we go. 4/4 Spirit Dragon flying for 4 mana in Sultai. When it attacks, mill 3 cards, and you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever one of our cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Interesting. I like it a lot. And my design concept for it that I came out with yesterday after the precon images were leaked is just slightly off with this one. Make sure you check that episode out. It did involve the graveyard still, but different, okay? And getting things out of the graveyard. But yeah, go check that episode out, all right? You can see, like, the other dragons and my thoughts on those too, and also just, like, the precons themselves, okay? The images from those. That being said, what this one does is quite interesting. I do like when we are ramping in different ways. Wizards, good job. Not just like, hey, when it attacks, go get a land. Wow, innovative. No. Yeah, milling 3 cards, return a land. Now, keep in mind, this is less limited than you think it is potentially because it's not returning a land from among those cards. It does not say that, meaning that, like, okay, if you just have literally any fetch land, you're just going to get that again and again and again and again and again and again. Evolving Wilds, whatever it is. You're maybe like, okay, like, I turn 1, play it, crack it. Okay, it's in my graveyard. Get this out, attack at some point. Okay, mill. Oh, I'll get my Evolving Wilds back out. Okay, next turn. Crack my Evolving Wilds. Okay, go get another land. All right, attack again. Get my Evolving Wilds back out. Like, literally, it's just a great way to ensure that you always have a land in your graveyard. Obviously, things like Ash Barrens or just obviously milling or doing other things to get lands in your graveyard will help you fill that as well. That being said, again, obviously, being able to return those, you're making more and more zombie druids, which I think is a new creature token. I don't think we've had zombie druids in the past before, but there's some cool things you can do with them. But yeah, being able to make a bunch of zombie druids from that is great, but of course there's more and more ways, including a card that I've been waiting for so long to get a home for it. We finally have it, and I'm going to be showing that off in the quick take around this. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with this one, and yeah, let's jump into those. Now, again, we do not know what the pre-con cards are that are in the pre-con for this commander. That being said, some things just to earmark right now, to bookmark right now. Yeah, the list that I'm going to be sharing. But just in case these cards are not in it, and you need some upgrades for it, Crypt Breaker just got reprinted, and it is an amazing card for this. Hey, you can pay 1 and a black, tap, discard a card, create 2/2 black zombie creature token. If that card's a land, you're setting yourself up to actually get that land into play with your commander too. So do keep that in mind, obviously. That being said, tap 3 and tap zombies you control, draw a card, and you lose 1 life. So a low to the ground, repeatable draw engine for you. Again, you're not going to be short on zombies with a commander like this, with a deck like this, most likely. So, again, you can kind of go in a couple of different directions with this. You can go, like, really land-heavy, maybe landfall synergies. You can go, like, graveyard synergies. You can go zombie-specific. You can go druid-specific if you really wanted to. But, yeah, this is a great draw engine for you. Speaking of which, Undead Augur. Probably just one that you're like, you know what, I'll just throw that in there just in case. Anyways, it's a good draw engine for you, too. 2/2 zombie wizard for 2 mana in black. Whenever this creature or another zombie control dies, you draw a card, lose 1 life. 1 life for 1 card is well worth it any day of the week, of course, in Commander at least. And being able to essentially say, you know what, let's actually just have a little, just a plan just in case things go wrong. What if a board wipe happens? Well, I get to just refill my hand with all those zombies getting taken out. Speaking of zombies, though, one that can help us out as well in a different way is Withered Wretch, a 2/2 zombie cleric for 2 mana, pay a single mana, move target card in a graveyard from the game, exile it, basically. So essentially, this is, again, a zombie, so if you have any zombie triumphal synergies, this can help you with those, but also it's pay 1 mana, make a 2/2 zombie druid, because you can just, okay, I get rid of a card in my graveyard, I get rid of a card in my graveyard, I get rid of a card in my graveyard. That can be quite nice. Paying 1 mana to make a 2/2 is quite good, especially with, again, 2 relevant creature types, one more relevant than the other, but still, let's not forget about Set and Frozen Protector. Oh my goodness, yes! 2/2 Centaur Druid Legend for 3 mana in green. Tap it on top, Druid you control, add green to your mana pool. So essentially, again, any of those zombie druids that you are making now all of a sudden are dorks. They're huge mana dorks. And being able to just utilize them for mana, yeah, you can really go crazy once you get things going. Speaking of crazy, Vizier the Scorpion. Again, zombie tribal shenanigans. You've got so many options. 1/1 zombie wizard for 3 mana. Also makes a zombie, amass 1. Zombie tokens you control have Death Touch. Yeah, so it's only zombie tokens. That being said, your zombie tokens, you're making a lot of them. Now them having Death Touch, that makes them a lot better when it comes to blocking, and also when it comes to attacking as well, and it makes them very deadly. And I think they come into play untapped as well, so there's some shenanigans that you could do with, like, instant speed, getting rid of something out of your graveyard, and then, like, blocking with a 2/2 Death Toucher, which can be quite nice. Next up, Tormod the Desecrator, again, a zombie itself that also doubles up on your making of 2/2s. This in case just zombies, not druids, but still. Whenever one of our cards leave your graveyard, create a tap 2/2 zombie creature token. Now, with this, and with our commander itself, again, it does say 1 or more. So, like, mass exiling your own graveyard is a terrible idea. Like, don't Tormod's Crypt yourself and be like, oh no, I only get 1. No. You want, again, individual removal like Withered Wretch. You want to individually get rid of things out of your graveyard, okay? Next up, though, a brutal card. Guiltleaf Archdruid. This might go up in price. 3/3 Elf Druid for 5 mana in green. Whenever you play a Druid spell, you draw a card, tap 7 and tap Druid you control, gain control of all land circuit player controls. This is a salt-inducing card. This, I mean, okay, here's the thing, like, with the new, like, tier scale, I mean, again, it might be adjusted at some point by Wizards, but I think just having this in this deck would technically probably put it into a tier 4 because you're messing with lands. Like, you are definitely messing with lands. Like, again, like, no mass land denial. I think stealing someone lands is mass land denial. It's not destruction, but it's mass land denial. So once you get to those 7, zombie druids, you're like, okay, I tap. Actually, you need 6 plus this. You just tap them and you're like, okay, I steal your lands. Good luck doing anything ever again. You lose the game. This is basically should have said that player loses the game because that's essentially what you're doing. They just lose the game. There you go. So yeah, it is a card that tread lightly when utilizing it, I guess, and probably it's one of those cards that you need to ask the people you're playing with because it is basically mass land destruction. It really is. Okay, next up, Oversold Cemetery, gem for 2 mana in black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have 4 more creature cards in your graveyard. You may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, I mean, this is just really good repeat, card advantage for you, but also like creature token production too in a way. If you are milling yourself enough with your commander with other things as well, you're going to be bound to have creatures in your graveyard. I mean, just throughout the game you are. So being able to bring them back to your hand, that's great. Extra value for you. And on top of that, of course, again, it makes that 2/2 when you do so. I mean, just the, normal disclaimer when it comes to any kind of a commander that makes a token. Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, all these cards. Yes, sometimes I forget to mention them. It's pretty obvious that they're good with it, okay? Anything that doubles up your tokens is good as something that makes tokens, and that's why they're expensive. They fit in so many decks. Now, though, for the star of the show, Titan's Nest, I love you. Enchantment for 4 mana, install at the beginning of your upkeep. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card in your graveyard. Exile a card from your graveyard. Add colorless spend this mana only to cast a colored spell without X in its mana cost. Here's the thing. That literally could just say exile a card from your graveyard, and then after that it says, like, okay, do nothing. And you would still want to play it. It doesn't matter what it does. It's lovely that it gives you mana. Again, spend this mana to cast a colored spell without X mana cost. That can be a huge boon for you. That can be a giant, like, ramp effect kind of in a way. But also, it's just like, okay, cool. Whenever I want, for free, I can get a card out of my graveyard and get rid of it. Meaning I just make a 2/2 whenever I want to do that. So if I have cards in my graveyard, an opponent's like attacking me and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I believe they come into play untapped. Let me know in the comments below if the druids come into play tapped. I think they're untapped. But yeah, being able to be like, oh, okay, they're attacking me. Oh, I've got like 20 cards in my graveyard. How big is that creature? 4/4? Okay, I exile 2 cards in my graveyard and I double block. You're gone. Okay, cool. Yeah, or just like right before your turn happens, like, oh, okay, yeah, I got 20 cards in my graveyard. Yeah, I'll exile all 20. All of a sudden, I've got a giant army of 2/2 druids. I've got 20 of those, and that's 40 power total, and I probably win the game. So yeah, this is just, again, a repeat free way to individually get cards out of your graveyard. Huge, massive, amazing. On top of that, too, like, yeah, you can just also, like, basically surveil 1 each turn, too, which is quite nice. So there you go. Again, I already kind of mentioned this, like, but Evolving Wilds or Foreboding Landscape, any kind of lands that essentially go, oh, you know what? Let's tap and sacrifice and go get another land. That's going to be good for this commander because obviously, again, you're setting yourself up again and again and again each turn to ensure that you have a land drop from your commander out of the graveyard, basically. So yeah, make sure that you have those because obviously it benefits you not only from ramping, but also from making more and more 2/2. So yeah, this is a commander that can go in a couple different directions again and go landfall, zombies, druids, a combination of all things. But again, as long as you have Titan's Nest in your deck, you're good in my book because I love this card. It is amazing. And finally, there's a home for a commander. Yes, please. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.